Just point the arrow over, got it. You got it? Now point the arrow over, got it. Not leave meeting, no, no, you almost killed us there. Okay.
Almost.
Almost. Okay. Again, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Let's dive in. We're going to do a deep dive into the daughters of Slavcha. Again, using some intertextual tools, which I hope will shed light on this story. So, Eden, if you can screen share the bracha. Great. 1 second. No? Let's just start it. Whoever knows it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Amen. Blessed are you, source of the universe, master of our lives, who has gifted us with your ancient wisdom. Okay, I'm going to screen share. But let me just say a few words about the daughters of Slavcha. Oh, David Kurtz, good to see you. I haven't seen you so long. The daughters of Slavcha in this parsha, they appear here and also in the last parsha of Numbers, of the book of Bamidbar, and they're also mentioned in other places in the Torah. And it's interesting because every time they're mentioned, all their names are mentioned. Like their names are really significant. And we have a poem, which is our last source, which really makes beautiful meaning out of their names. So in any case, these 5 daughters to me are completely revolutionary. Robert, can you make it big, like see the green? Yes, make a big screen, thank you. Full screen, not green. Yeah, there you go. Excellent. They're really revolutionary in the sense that they had the courage to step up before the entire people of Israel and Moses and Elazar and the princes and everyone, all the muckety mucks, and and the whole community, and say, this is what we deserve. This is what we need. Amazing. And for those of you who heard my sermon last night, it's really in sharp contrast to all the complaining and all the wanting to go backwards throughout the book of Bamidbar, Numbers, and also in it starts in Exodus. As soon as the people are on their way out of Egypt, they say, I want to go back to Egypt. What'd you take us out for? And then there's this yearning for Egypt, and there's an idealization of Egypt, the leeks, the watermelons, the garlic. And then at some point, they actually try to create a team and appoint a leader to go back to Egypt. So they want to go backwards, right? And these daughters of Slavcha, they are forward gazing. So that's my introduction. And we're going to now jump into the text. Let me share my screen. And Eden, if you could keep dropping. You can keep dropping the
source sheet. Absolutely, Rabbi Dan.
I'm increasing my ability to see here. Okay, 1 second.
But the father's name doesn't go with them, right?
Doesn't go with them where?
Into the future. The father's name is.
Well, they are mentioned as the daughters of Slavcha.
Mm-hmm.
He's dead already.
Yes.
But that is part of their name, yes. And here. Okay, looks like that was successful. I called it, I am, therefore I belong, the daughters of Slavcha. And what I will do in this session is not only sort of look at some interesting features of what they're doing and their experience, but compare it to another episode in the Torah, when a few people are impure and cannot observe Pesach and bring the Korban Pesach, the sacrifice of Pesach, when they're supposed to. And they take their complaint to Moshe. And Moshe has the same reaction. Moshe doesn't know what to do and defers to. Right, so in both these situations, there's there's a situation where people want to belong, right? They want to take part. They raise up their voice. Moshe doesn't know what to do, and God tells them what to do. God tells Moshe and the people what to do. Okay, and in both cases, it establishes precedent for the people for generations to come. Okay, so I'm going to start with Benot Slokad, and then we will continue and look earlier in Numbers at the issue of Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach. Okay, so here we are in Numbers 27. Vatikravna Benot Slokad ben Chefer ben Gilad ben Machir ben Menashe. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names of men, right? Lemishpachot Menashe, the family of Menashe, ben Yosef, the son of Yosef. So I guess 2 more male names, 7. The Eila Shemot Benotav Machla, Noah, V'Chogla, Milka, V'Tirza. Okay, so the daughters of Slochat of the Menasite family, son of Chefer, son of Gilad, son of Machir, son of Menashe, son of Joseph, came forward, right? They approached, they literally came close. And the names of the daughters were Machla, Noah, Chogla, Milka, and Tirza. So they came close and they stand. Vata'amodna lifnei Moshe v'lifnei Elazar haKohen v'lifnei Hanesiim v'chol ha'edah. They stood before Moses, Elazar the priest, the chieftain, and the whole assembly. Where? Petach Ohel Moed Le'mor. The entrance of the tent of meeting, right, which is the sacred place. And they said, so what did they say? And let's look carefully. Avinu met b'midbar. Our father died in the wilderness. So they weren't part of the faction that were testifying against God in Korach's group, right? He was not one of the Korach's faction, which banded together against Adonai. But he bechet mate. So he died here in his own sin. Right, some of the Midrash says he was the one who gathered wood on Shabbat, but it doesn't say that here. So he died for his own sin. He died like anyone else for their own sin. Uvanim lo hayulo, and he didn't have any sons. Right, so that's the situation. So they're painting the situation, and it's already interesting how they're painting the situation because they're saying, Moshe, we're on your side. We're not part. Our father was not part of those Korahites that were rebelling against you. Right, we're just like a normal family. We don't have any brothers. We want to inherit. So then they say, Lama Yigara Shem Avinu Mitoch Mishpachto. Why should the name of our father be diminished in his family? Ein lo ben, simply because he doesn't have a ben, a son. Then straight out they say, Tena lanu achuzat. Give us an inheritance. Give us, let's see how it's, give us a holding, a chuzah, something to hold, b'toch achei avinu, amongst our father's kinsmen. And then, what does Moshe do? Moshe does something very interesting. Vayakrev Moshe, so they brought close, right? That was the start of this passage, but Tikravna, and now Moshe brings close via Moshe, or offers et mishpatan, their case l'fnei Adonai, before God. Okay, so that's the basic situation. Okay, now basically here Bamidbar Rabbah says so in this parsha also, there is the issue of transmission. And here, Bamidbar Rabbah says they knew exactly when to speak because that issue was already up. So it's an issue of timing. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to Aviva Gottlieb Zornberg. And she says, the reference to their father's sin is also mysterious. Perhaps his daughters fear that Moshe may be prejudiced against them if their father was party to that rebellion that was directed against the leadership of Moshe and Aaron. From this reading, the women are aware of possible bias that needs to be neutralized. In other words, they have rhetorical talent here, right? They're considering all the political factors. In other words, they have a realistic sense of the political field in which they must stake their claim. A similar awareness informs the Zohar's explanation of Moses' referring the case to God. He recuses himself from the case to avoid any suspicion of prejudice against Slothar as a rebel against Moshe's leadership. Here again is a reminder that truth is to be found within a force field of political power. So I think another way to say this is that truth always has to find its way into a limited context. Right? There's always time, there's always place, and truth is so big and broad and sort of absolute, and has to find its way into sort of subjective human situations. Right? And it reminds me of Emily Dickinson's line, "Tell all the truth, but tell it slant." Tell it slant. Tell it slant. Now, what's interesting about that is that, truth certainly has its place in human discourse, but one has to be strategic so that it can be heard. That's at least my experience. Okay. We're going to skip the next one because I'm going to talk about this during services today, Shabbat services. So we're going to go to Numbers 9 and compare the Benot Tzlopchad to this case. Joe, did you want to say something?
I like the Tekavarna and the both like coming close.
Yeah.
So when you have contention or you have something that's complicated or sensitive, if you're far from the relationship, it's much more difficult to resolve something. If you get
Beautiful.
close and you talk softly and everything else, then you're gonna have it. So I like those two.
Beautiful.
Every
So that
note.
reminds me, whenever something complicated, not whenever, but often if something complicated comes up over email, I
Right,
like to pick up the phone, right? Because we're not gonna get anywhere. What we're gonna do, we're gonna have a dozen more emails and get nowhere. We're all spinning our wheels, right? Let's just cut to the chase and have a conversation. Okay. And the same thing, like you hear about people who break up with somebody over the phone or by text. It's like, no, in person, right? The more sensitive it is, the closer you need to come. And they came close, which means they were related. I think that's what Joe was saying. They didn't make, it wasn't only about being right. It was about their being connected to the people and to Moshe and God, right? And their claim really is all about being connected. We want a holding. We want a holding in the promised land. We want to be part of it. So we want to belong. Right? That's what I called the whole session. Right? To be, what did I call it? I am, therefore I belong. Okay, so now let's go on to the case of the second Passover, Pesach Sheni. And I think we'll see a lot of similar structural and some linguistic features as well. Asher Chaim, do you feel like reading? Take all the time you need, as long as it's not too much time.
Sorry. This is 7. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe b'midbar Sinai b'shana hashenit l'seitam me'eres Misraim b'chodesh harishon lemor. Yud He Vav He spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai during the second year of their exodus from the land of Misraim, during the first month, saying, V'ya'asu b'nei Yisrael et ha'pasach b'mo'ado. Let the Israelites carry out the Pesach at its appointed time.
So it's really interesting here that not only should they do Pesach, but b'mo'ado, in its time, is important, and you'll see that word repeated, as well as when you're supposed to do it is repeated. So this time element is crucial.
ב-14 יום בחודש הזה בין ה-40 תעשו אותו במועדו, ככל חוקותיו וככל משפטיו תעשו אותו. On the 14th day of this month, during the ambiguous evening hour, you shall make it at its time. According to all of the laws and ordinances, you shall carry it out. וידבר משה אל בני ישראל לעשות הפסח. Moshe told the Israelites to carry out the Pesach. ויעשו את הפסח בראשון ב14 יום לחודש בין הארבעים במדבר סיני, ככל אשר ציווה אדוני את משה, כן עשו בני ישראל. And they carried out the Pesach during the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at twilight, in the wilderness of Sinai.
So
According
now
to,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
according to everything that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh had commanded Moshe, so did the Israelites.
So in these 5 verses, it is made perfectly clear that timing and Pesach, timing when it comes to Pesach is absolutely crucial. Right, so that prepares the way for the force of the request that is now to be made.
ויהי אנשים אשר היו טמאים לנפש אדם, ולא יכלו לעשות הפסח ביום ההוא, ויקרבו לפני משה ולפני אהרון ביום ההוא. However, there were men who were ritually impure from contact with the dead, and they were not able to carry out the Pesach on that day. And they drew close in the presence of Moshe and in the presence of Aharon on that day. ויאמרו האנשים ההמה אליו, אנחנו טמאים לנפש אדם, למה ניגרע לבלתי הקריב את קורבן אדוני במועדו בתוך בני ישראל? And those men said to him, we were impure because of contact with the dead. Why should we be diminished by not being able to bring the sacrifice of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh at the right time in the midst of the Israelites?
So that question for both of them, like, why should our father's name be diminished? Right, that same word is used. Why should we be diminished? We shouldn't be diminished. We are standing here because we shouldn't be diminished. Right, so this law is excluding us, is diminishing us. Go on.
ויאמר עליהם משה, עמדו וישמעה מה יסווה אדוני לכם. Moshe said to them, stand by, and I will hear what Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh will command me concerning you.
So those 2 verbs, to come close and to stand, right, are in both passages. And also that very specific phrase, lama nigara, which is nowhere else in the whole Torah except for these 2 episodes, right? So that phrase certainly links the 2 episodes, and structurally they're linked as well. Here's a problem. It excludes us from the life of Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, and we want to belong. We want to belong. And then Moshe doesn't know what to do, and God steps in. So a lot of similarities. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, hold on, is do a few more on, we're gonna do a few more, and then I'm gonna open this up. Okay, so number 8. Vayakrev Moshe. So this is what happens. Now we're back in the daughters of Sofchad. What happens after they ask the question? Moshe doesn't know what to do. Vayakrev Moshe mishpatan l'fnei Adonai. Moshe brought the case before Adonai. But Yomer Adonai al Moshe le'emor, and Adonai says to Moses, "Ken b'not Sofchad bilvot." Yes, they are speaking rightly. Natan titen lahem achuzat nachala b'toch achei avihem. You should give them a hereditary holding among their father's kinsmen. V'ha'avarta et nachalat avihem lahem. Transfer the father's share to them. And then there's another step. Not only does God sort of make a legal decision on their behalf, but this whole decision leads us to a law that stands for all Israelites for generations to come. The El B'nai Israel to daber lemor ish ki yamut uvein ein lo v'havartem et nachalato litvito. further speaks to the Israelite people as follows. If a householder dies without leaving a son, you shall transfer his property to a daughter. And then further than that, אם אין לו בת, ונתחתם את נחלתו לאחיו. If he has no daughter, you shall assign his property to his brothers. ואם לא אחים, ונתחתם את נחלתו לאחי אביו. If he has no brothers, you shall assign his property to his father's brothers. 11. ואם אין אחים לאביו, ונתתם את נחלתו לשארו הקרוב אליו ממשפחתו. וירש אותה. הייתה לבני ישראל לחוקת משפט, כאשר ציווה אדוני את משה. This father had no brothers, who shall assign his property to his nearest relative in his own clan, who shall inherit it. This shall be the law of procedure for the Israelites in accordance with Adonai's command to Moses. So what's happening here is that God is addressing not only the obstacles that denote Slofchad, the daughter of Slofchad, face, but similar obstacles. If the father doesn't have brothers, if the father has brothers, then this. If there are no sons and no daughters, and then the father doesn't have brothers, then this, right? So the possibilities of what they raised up kind of multiply, and God understands that this principle is important and is establishing a law so that the maximum ways of inheriting, can be implemented in the promised land. Okay, so one more, and then I will open things up. So here is how Pesach Sheni also becomes case law. Asher Chaim, can I throw it back to you?
Thank you. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל לאמור, I'm sorry, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh spoke to Moshe, saying, דבר אל בני ישראל לאמור, איש איש כי יהיה פרמי לנפש, או בדרך רחוקה לכם, או לדורותיכם, ועשה פסח לאדוני. Speak to the Israelites, saying, anyone who is ritually impure because of contact with the dead, or too far away, whether it's you or future generations, let them make a Pesach to Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. בחודש השני ב14 יום בין הערביים יעשו אותו, על מוסות ומרורים יאכלוהו. During the second month, on the 14th day, at the evening, they shall make it. Over matzot and bitters they shall eat it. Lo yashiru mimenu ad boker ve'etzem lo yishberu vo, kechol hokat pesach yasu oto. They shall not leave any remaining until morning, nor break any bone while preparing it. According to all of the laws of the Pesach, they shall prepare it.
Okay, so this is an incredible story of second chances for the people that cannot partake of Pesach for reasons of impurity, right? They get a second chance. Okay, so I see a bunch of hands in the room and on Zoom, so I'm gonna stop sharing. Let's see. Stop sharing. Okay. So since there are a lot of hands, I'm ask, especially this time, for people to be concise. So on Zoom, we'll start on Zoom, and then I'll go back to the room. Lori and then Jay. So please concise and on points, right? If you can refer to the text that we've been discussing. Robert, can you make that full screen again? Just the green, yeah, on the left, correct. Beautiful. Okay, Lori. Okay, let's start with Jay, and then Lori, when you can unmute, you'll let us know. Jay.
What strikes me in the parallel here is these are both situations where Moshe, in essence, appealed to a higher order. So my question is, how often has this happened? If it hasn't happened, I mean, clearly it's clear that one thing here is there are precedents created. But this can't be the only time in the Torah that there are proscriptions and prescriptions that are assumed to last generations and are precedents. So I'm just wondering how often is this that Moshe specifically in the Torah does not rule, but asks for God to rule directly. And are these the only two? Are there more? What would be the commonality? Why are some done and not others, etc.?
Yeah, good question. These are not the only two. These are the only two for which case law is established, as far as I understand. I think another one, and people can help me because I'm not really remembering fully, is the Mikoshesh, is the person who
Woodchopper.
collects wood on Shabbat. And is the other one the case? Actually, I'm not sure. So people help me out. Who remembers?
So may I just ask, so then later on, the rabbis make all kinds of rulings that are supposed to be for precedent, right? So how do they deal with, in essence, taking God's job or doing God's role? I mean, it opens up all kinds of interesting questions here for me.
Okay, so Asher Chaim says exactly those three: the Mikoshesh, the person who is collecting wood on Shabbat. Moshe turns to God regarding the punishment specifically, and then these two cases. Is there another one that anyone knows about before? Yeah, Wendy, do you know another one?
Egla Rufa, when someone
Egla Rufa? No, I don't think
between
so.
two towns?
No, that's a law. That's not like Moshe turning to God and saying, I don't know what to do. That's different.
The other laws, weren't the others laws as well until they were appealed, in essence?
Say that again.
Weren't these examples that you just gave also laws that then were somehow modified because of appeal?
Correct, but Egla Arufa, the use of a heifer or breaking the neck of a heifer when you don't know, when you find a corpse and you don't know who murdered the person. Actually, I remember discussing this between two towns, is not a case where the law is established. It's not like, oh, we don't know what to do.
No, yeah, that to me wouldn't have been an example. But for example, the issue of how you judge adultery or something. I could imagine a woman coming and saying, "This is unfair. Here's why." I mean, I could see other appeals for other laws, and so why these three? We can't hear you.
No, not again. Eden, any insights? Can you hear me, Asher Chaim?
It's okay. Now it's okay.
So I don't know. We have to think about why, but I don't have an answer right now. Thank you for. I'm thinking, so the Mikoshesh, I don't know because it's not, immediately up in my mind. But there's something here about people coming forward and wanting to belong that seems to me especially compelling to God. Right? Moshe is like, I don't know what to do. There's a law here. It seems established. It seems clear. Right? And these people are coming forward and sort of wanting to be part of God's project. So that's all I have to say for the moment. Okay, I'm going to go to the room now. And Robert, can you put it back on the view so I can see who's raising their hands?
Which one's that?
So,
Will I get a chance, Diane, again, Rabbi Diane?
on the right, Robert. you
That's
see
what I
view?
don't know. No, I don't see anything.
In the corner.
Oh, I'm
In the
sorry.
corner,
Sorry,
right,
sorry.
go to view and put it back on gallery.
Gotcha.
Now you see gallery?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So now I'm gonna go to the room and someone said something. Eden, did you say something?
Rabbi Dan, Lori is able to unmute now if you wanted to take her comment before you go back to the room, or if you want to come back to Zoom after. Up to you.
Lori, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not able to show my my face today. No, I just wanted to share that for many years, part of the Hasidic tradition is Pesach Sheni, and I've been part of a group. Karl Bach originated, and we've been celebrating it for years and years now. And yeah, so and we get together. You don't have to have a whole Seder, but we have matzah, and we we talk about second chances, and I just wanted to just bless everyone, that I just bless you with your relationship with God and all the people in your life, that you always have second, third, and maybe fourth chances.
Oh, thank you, Lori. It's good to know that that practice is still alive. Okay, in the room, everyone have their, okay, so I'm gonna go around and I'm gonna ask people to be brief. Alina.
So I just have a very naive question. Now, Moses brought a case before Yud Hey Vav Hey. How does that happen? What does that mean? We go right
Hey,
past.
God, I don't know how to answer
Yeah.
this question.
How do we assume that happens?
I don't
All right.
I
let's-
don't know,
we go past that.
but,
Yeah.
perhaps Moshe enters the tent of meeting and has a
Perhaps.
conversation with God. But it doesn't say. I don't
Yeah.
know.
All
I
right.
don't know.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning. I like it. Hi. Okay. Yeah, okay. Paul.
So to answer the question, why does Moses turn to God? The distinction in my mind between the case of Pesach and the daughters, the Pesach question is liturgical. And so naturally, it would be God to make that determination. The case with the daughters is legal and not liturgical and societal.
Well, they're both legal in terms of the rules of the child.
But it's a question, the Pesach is a question of prayer. And with the daughters, it's a question of property allocation, which to me seem two very different things.
They certainly are in our world, yes.
Yes. And so Moses has rendered his decision with respect to the daughters by not saying no. God has taken his voice away. He has said, you are no longer entering the promised land. Moses knows that his force
Oh, that's interesting.
is
It's
now
right. It's out of his purview now.
extinguished.
That's
and
interesting.
the best that he can
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
is not say no immediately. By going to God, he, in my mind at least, has implicitly given his assent. But he needs God in order to render it forceful.
Because God will be there and not.
God will be there
Beautiful.
in the promised land, which is where the property allocation will occur.
Okay, all right. Joe, did I skip you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the reason that the Torah gives this very long lineage of the daughters of Zephad is because they want to know that these women had very significant yichus, very significant inheritance. They are descendants of Joseph, and Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, and Joseph got the blessing over all the other 11 sons. And I think the reason the Torah lists all these names to say, like, these were women who came from like a significant lineage, a significant, and so it helps to validate their claim.
Cool. Yeah, I agree.
Opposed to
I agree.
if they were women from another tribe.
Well, hopefully they would be listened to
Right.
also, but we don't know. But you're right, there's quite a lineage there.
Right.
Okay, Deborah, did you have something? No, Nikki?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a leap into the present, actually, with this. Coming close to Moshe, coming close to God, coming close, the women coming close. What is the origin then for the Orthodox not letting women approach the Torah?
Stupidity.
You know, that, I can't go there. I can't. I can't.
In a word, stupidity.
It's, no, but I can't, it's too off topic and I don't wanna
Alright,
speak for a
I'm
community
sorry.
that I'm not part of. Not to be sorry. I just don't wanna go there right now. Great question. We can talk about it later. Okay? Okay, so now, anyone else in the room wanted to speak?
Yeah, I just want, thanks, good morning. I just wanted to say that I think that this point is very interesting about like how much of the fact that it was like an important influential lineage for today. How much is it that an important lineage, that the connection, that the
1%.
relationships influence and change the course of anyone's individual or the collective direction of things. So I just want to throw that out as like something I think we should be paying very close attention
Really
to.
interesting. So the question
in
is
this
status.
story. Status and access.
Status and
like,
access,
if
yeah.
you don't have the friends and family round, you
Yeah.
can't stand up what you're
Yeah,
doing,
in
you know,
in
it's
light
like,
of
Can't
recent
get
Supreme.
Spielberg if you don't have the.
Wait, hold on, I can't because of Zoom and a Zoomagog and
Sorry.
the owl, I need to only, we need to have boys in the room that raise your
Sorry.
hand. In light of recent Supreme Court decisions, this is especially an important question to raise, so thank you. Robert,
You started off speaking about timing.
yes,
I love the Parshas Pinchas, but everybody always talks about the daughters of Slavcha.
yes,
But
they're
because-
easier to talk about.
But
For sure. For those of you who know the story of
Yes.
yeah,
Pinchas, which is actually not in this parsha, just the aftermath is.
Right.
I'm a
The
big,
daughters of
yeah.
Slavcha are easier to talk about.
yes, but
You're a big fan of Pinchas.
no, well, I admire Pinchas.
Uh-huh,
Okay,
uh-huh.
anyway,
I can understand
but
that.
it's interesting, you said timing and how you go about things. And where Pinchas took things into his own hand. He didn't ask any questions, he moved. These other people, Slavka, Pesach Sheni, they took their time, they were respectful. You know, it's a different approach to life.
So for those of you who don't know the story of Pinchas, there's a scene of idolatry and adultery. And an Israelite was having sex basically with a Moabite woman. And Pinchas took things into his own hands. So there was like massive like chaos, right? Pinchas took things into his own hand and ran them through with a spear. So it's an interesting story, and it's an interesting story about zealotry and how does one sort of, step in when there's chaos. I think it would be so triggering to so many people, we wouldn't really have a conversation about it, which is why we're not studying it today or last week or ever. Okay.
Maybe next year.
Not me, maybe Rabbi David, but not me. I can't go there.
Yeah, please,
Alana?
Shabbat Shalom. So on the theme of timing, I'm thinking about how the daughters step up after the death of Miriam. And I wonder, so I'm thinking about a connection between Miriam no longer being present as a voice for women, and that these particular daughters, maybe in their own lineage, with their mothers and grandmothers taking the place of the voice of Miriam. And my other thought is this is a kind of tikkun, in a sense, for the slaughter of the rebels, who we could think about as being a kind of motion towards speaking up for change within the community, and they're all slaughtered. So in this case, these women have the audacity and courage, particularly in the context of what just happened with the slaughter of all of the rebels. And everybody does it differently. Moshe does it differently. God does it differently. And so there's a kind of modeling in a way for let's be a people who can speak up for justice within our own communities rather than, be slaughtered. Let's be a liberatory force rather than repeat the oppression of Egypt.
Beautiful. And it's interesting, these two cases, right? We have daughters who are not inheriting by virtue of the fact that they're female. And in Pesach Sheni, people who can't participate in Pesach because they're impure. And it's like, do these almost accidents of fate, right? Prevent me from being part of the community, right? That's the justice issue. It's a justice issue for our times. Like, why does my color, does my sex, does my gender, why does that get in the way from me participating in society in the way that I deserve to?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And hopefully we'll have some more time for people to speak in a little while. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so this is interesting. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Just Rashi says Davar Acher Ruya Haytab in number 11. Moshe. This chapter ought to be had written by Moshe, since Moshe writes the Torah, right? Ela shezachu benot Tzlofchad v'nichteva al yadan. But benot Tzlofchad merited to write this piece of the Torah. Right? So they get to be the authors of their own story, which is even more radical. Okay, so now there's something interesting, because the rabbis are noticing a pattern. We may like the pattern, we might not like the pattern. We'll see what the rabbis do with it in terms of men and women and the wilderness experience. Okay, so it says here, actually, Asher Chaim, can you read the number 13 and then I'll read number 14.
Sorry, I'm just technically challenged here. Ella תקודי משה ואלעזר הכהן אשר פקדו את בני ישראל בערבות מואב על ירדן יריחו. These are the accountings of Moshe and Eleazar the Kohen when they counted the Israelites and the steppes of Moab again across from Jordan, Jericho on the Jordan. Uve'ela lo haya ish mipekudei Moshe v'Aharon HaKohen asher pakdu et bnei Israel b'midbar Sinai. Among them, there was not a single man from the countings of Moshe and Aharon HaKohen when they counted the Israelites in the wilderness of Sinai. Ki amar Adonai lahem mot yimutun b'midbar v'lo notar mehem ish ki im Kalev ben Yefuneh v'Yehoshua ben Nun. Because Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh had said concerning them, die, they shall die in this wilderness. And there was not a single man left among them, except for Kalev, son of Yefuneh, and Yehoshua, son of Nun.
So this refers to after the sin of the spies, when Bnei Israel, when the children of Israel say, no, we're not going to go into the land. And God says, basically, no, you're not going to go into the land because that whole generation is going to die out, except for Caleb and Joshua, right? So, and the next generation, their children, right, are the ones who will walk into the promised land and inherit. So, the larger statement is that those who were slaves in the land of Egypt don't have the consciousness, don't have the strength of character to be able to found a new society and sort of fulfill and manifest the divine promise. So what does Rashi say here? Ve'ele lo haya ish. Aval al-hanashim lo nigzarav zerat hamiraglim. Right, but among these there was no man, but the decree consequent upon the incident of the spies had not been enacted upon the women. Right. So just the way Asher Chaim read it, this punishment, the rabbis are saying, only related to men. Why? Because the women love the land. The men say, let us point ahead and go back to Egypt. The women say, give us an inheritance. And here the Benot Tzlofchad, the daughters of Tzlofchad, are being quoted. And that's why these two literary pieces are next to each other. So in other words, the women weren't part of the sin, right? The women wanted to go forward. The men wanted to go backwards. Okay, so here's another piece about that.
Okay, we get it.
Tony, you don't like it.
The women are the land. Of course they love the land. They are the land.
Not sure what I think about that.
Rashi also taught his daughters to
Earth mothers. Yes. They're all earth mothers. Women are earth mothers.
Okay. Rachel wants to say something. Rachel,
I agree
quick
with what you said. I agree with
Rachel, a little louder.
All right, I agree with what has just been said because I'm very feminine and I do all this gushy stuff. But I gotta say something.
Yes, Rachel.
The women don't have to fight and get killed in this age. And the men did. And damn it, if someone would said, poof, I'll make you a man now, Rachel, even with the limitations in those days, I would have said, what? go out and get killed. No, I'd rather be very sweet and have babies.
Amen.
So you're saying there's something about the male role with all its attendant power that's actually limited because they are the ones that have to fight.
Absolutely.
I love that
Come
you
on.
turned the gender roles on their head in that way.
Mm.
Yes, Tony, it's
Even
gonna be
worse-
your only comment. Go ahead.
Good.
Make it good. No, make it good.
Not that good. It's
You
not
want
that
to be
good.
sympathetic today. Come on.
Even worse than getting killed is having to kill. That's what I'm saying.
Echoing Golden Mayer, right? Yeah.
And by the way, all we're saying is give peace a chance vis-a-vis the whole Pinna story. He exemplifies pure action, but that's not the end of the tale. I mean, that should be the beginning of a human way, not the end of it.
All right, let's read this. So from Bamidbar Rabbah, the Midrash on the book of Numbers. Okay, but Tikravna benot Tzlopha. Oto hador hayu anashim goldurot mash hashim portzim. In that generation, women would repair what the men had breached. The Ken b'meraglim shahotzi diba. Actually, I'm not going to go through all these specific examples. I'm just going to read the English. But the women drew close in order to request a portion in the land. So this echoes what Joe was saying before, drawn close. Therefore, this section was related on the heels of the death of the generation of the wilderness, for there the men had breached and the women had repaired. I'm going to read two more things and open things up. So this is from the Torah Woman's Commentary, and it says,
Which number are you on?
16.
Thank you.
Perhaps, people on Zoom, it's hard to, okay. Perhaps the most important legacy of Tzlopchad's daughters is their call to us to take hold of life with our own hands, to move from the place that the others have given us or that we have decided to keep because we feel immobile, and to walk even to the most holy center, to where nobody seems to be able to go. So that's interesting. I'm going to say it a little bit differently, which is that it's not only taking hold of life with our own hands, but taking hold of our legacy with our own hands and moving forward, right?
Okay.
Saying, God, you made me a promise. I want that promise.
Nice.
Right? I want to be part of this promise. Okay, and the last thing, I'm going to read this really gorgeous poem by my friend, Rabbi Sharon Cohen-Anisfeld. And she writes, years ago, I heard, this is the last source on the page. I heard about a young woman whose parents named her Achzava. She walked through the world bearing this unutterable weight. Nice to meet you. My name is Disappointment. She was the 10th beautiful girl given to parents who longed for a son. Their hope died the day she was born. A stillbirth, you could say, but she was still born, like the rest of us, breathing, crying, gulping for air. When she turned 18, she changed her name. I have always wondered what changed then and what didn't. Last week, I thought of her again as the daughters of Tzlopchad rose up to claim their inheritance in a land under a law that lacked the imagination to see the future in their hands. 5 sisters taking their place in the lineage of savvy, strategic women, using the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. Arguing not for their own sake, but for the sake of their father. Let not our father's name be lost to his clan just because he had no son. Perhaps it's because I'm aging. Perhaps it's because we live in such unforgiving times. Perhaps it's because I can't forget the story of Achzava. This year, I hear a great tenderness welling up in these words. Devotion to a father whose own name, may it not be lost, whispers to us of shadow and fear. Yet who looked at each of his newborn daughters and called them Machla, Noah, Hogla, Noka, Tirza. I see him now trembling, holding each of them in his arms and saying, never let anyone call you disappointment. You are forgiveness. You are movement. You are dance. You are royalty. You are delight. This is your inheritance. You will give birth to possibilities I cannot imagine. Lead the way. Yeah, and what a beautiful rendering of the pain between generations, right? The father's name means shadow of fear. There's fear, shadow and fear. Well, the daughter's names, right? Each one, right? Hope, dance, delight, movement, forgiveness, royalty.
And Pachad.
Sail and pachad, yeah. Can you take that and point to the green on the left side, right? Left side, yeah, so this way we can see the people. Oh, and now you have to go to gallery view. Yes, so you're learning, Robert, excellent. Gallery, yes, beautiful, okay. I see Asher Chaim.
May I repeat what I threw in before class? That an added layer of the amazingness of these 5 named women is that they are the descendants of the part of the sub-tribes of Menashe that later petitioned Moshe for the right to remain in the Gilad and not cross the river into the actual land of Canaan, because Yair and Machir said, oh, we have cattle and this is great grazing land, the land we conquered from the Amorite kings, let's stay here. So even within that sub-tribe of Yosef, most of their father's kinsmen were ambivalent about entering the land. And they were absolutely bent on entering the land and claiming their father's portion within it. They're just amazing. And the Torah does speak their names more than anyone else, really.
I think
Yeah.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, thank you, Asher Chaim. So even though this lineage gives them status, it also highlights their own audacity and uniqueness in that lineage. Okay, anyone else? Can you go back to gallery again? Sorry, thank you, Robert. Go down and you'll see view. Yeah, now go to view and go to gallery. Exactly. Okay, any other hands in the room on
One
Zoom?
line, just one line.
Yeah, Tony, hit it.
My friend Rustro Rubin, best known for writing the script for the movie Ghost and Jacob's Ladder, wrote a movie called The Last Mimsy. That is a beautiful accompaniment to this amazing poem by Rabbi Sharon.
Okay. All
The
right.
Last Mimsy. You heard it here.
All right, you'll share it with some of us, so
Sure.
we know what it says. Okay, very good.
Writing it in the chat right now.
Okay. Could it be that we're up? I see another hand. Could it be that we're ending early? Wendy.
I just wanted to add to what Asher Chaim had said about who the tribes that stay outside of the land once it's settled. And it's Reuben and Menashe, who both were passed over to get the Behor, to get the firstborn. Reuben was passed over for his brother Joseph, and Menashe was passed over for his brother Ephraim. And so hence, you could see that hurt, that disappointment said, okay, we're not going to go into the land. These 2 groups who were passed over and didn't get what they thought they deserved decided to stay
Beautiful.
outside of the land.
Wow, interesting. But also, you're also pointing out that these 5 daughters have this, ancestral past
Right.
of being passed over, and they're saying we will not be passed over. So, yeah, Paul, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the comparison between Pinchas and the daughters and how that's resonated through the years. And Pinchas was very effective. He stopped a plague.
Yeah.
He jumped on a situation, and one can say that he had a humanitarian frame of mind, in that many more people would have died without his action.
Yes. One can
However,
definitely make
and
that
he was
claim.
rewarded
And
by
he
the
was rewarded.
priesthood. But as we know, the priesthood.
And by God.
And by God, but priesthood subsequently was abolished. And the daughters intercession with God has resonated through the ages. And so we can say that both had value, but if one wants to create cultural value that resonates through generations, asking for societal and cultural buy-in to whatever it is that you want is the way to sustain through the generations. That's the way to build.
If we're comparing these two, yes.
The
I'd
two
like to
actually.
add to that, if I may. I think it resonates with the situation now in Israel with the two sides on how to act. One side is to go and stop the plague of torture and bombing and so forth by driving a spear into the enemy. And the other wants to go through political means and work things out to resonate, as you said.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna actually go to the screen, 2 more short comments, and then I'm gonna do a closing blessing. I'm sorry, we're not gonna have room for time for more comments. So we have Amy and Adele. Amy.
Yes, I just want to thank you so much. Like the daughters, you picked up the mantle and are doing Torah study for this July. We almost didn't have Torah study for July, but I'm so grateful to you and thank you so much for picking up the mantle and giving us and providing us with this Torah study. And that's basically what I wanted to show you, my great deal of appreciation, not only for you all year long, but especially for in this month. And thank you so much.
So much, Amy. I appreciate it.
Have a blessed week.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and Adele.
Hi, good Shabbos, everyone. This is my birthday Parsha. My birthday is the 21st of Tammuz and July 9th, so back to back. I've always been happy for this Daughters of Tzlafchad. Unfortunately, my family did not deal with me that way, but I wanted to say that Pinchas ze Eliyahu. I don't know where to take that, but that's what is said. That the Gilgal of Pinchas relates to Eliyahu. So there's a lot of Torah in there to be mined.
Okay, so in mystical literature, Pinchas is said to become Elijah or Eliyahu. So that's a kind of redemptive figure.
Yeah, to redeem his own actions.
Yeah.
Okay, so see, this is why I don't teach Pinchas. Everybody would be like talking and wasn't fighting. Hush.
Yes, redemptive and bringing peace.
I'm going now back to the notes of Tzlafchad, and I want to say that this is really what they do is really interesting because you can say in a way that they're conformists, but they're very much not conformists, right? If you think about it, conformists in society, they kind of go along with the rules, the norms, the regulations. But the notes of Tzlafchad want so much to fit in, but they do that by becoming non-conformists, by standing up, by sort of exposing themselves, by risking themselves and saying, we want to stay in this. Right, we want a partner. And I'm wondering, I'm just thinking about it, and we're gonna have a little bit of that conversation later, but what would that mean for each of us? Right, to expose ourselves, to be vulnerable, to ask for, the fulfillment of this tradition. So I bless each of us with that ability, with asking for what we need and what we deserve in a way that actually becomes a gift to the entire community. And with that, I will say, Shabbat Shalom, everybody.